Okay, Block 7, The Greatest Generation, Section 5, The Home Front with Japanese Relocation and the Camps. The assimilation was wonderful in all cases except one, the Japanese. And they were the exception to the rule concerning ethnic assimilation. This is not one of the great glories of American history, what happened to Japanese Americans and Japanese immigrants during the Second World War. To understand why this happened, you have to put yourself in the time period and understand what people in that time period were thinking and what they were feeling. First of all, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. A sneak attack, a surprise attack, made people... A lot of people thought that they could not possibly have done this without help, from Japanese people living in Hawaii. Americans feared that Japanese might act as saboteurs for Japan in case of an invasion. That a lot of people thought that after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, that they were going to be landed on the beaches of San Francisco, 3 days later. And a lot of Americans feared seriously that the Asian Americans, and the Japanese especially in their midst, were going to be saboteurs. They had reason in their own minds to believe this, and the example of what had happened in Norway in 1940 kind of was on everybody's mind in 1941. In 1940, Vidkun Quisling, a Norwegian politician, kind of switched sides and helped the Germans conquer Norway, and Americans feared that Japanese citizens would be a fifth column, that there was columns of soldiers attacking, but a fifth column is a column from within, and Americans were afraid of a fifth column of Japanese citizens kind of fighting against the United States. So in response to this, President Roosevelt ordered Japanese living on the West Coast to be relocated to camps. And here's a sign. Pretty much one day the signs went up that the Japanese had to leave their houses, leave their businesses, take what they could carry, and head to these centers where they would be shipped out to camps. They lost millions in property. They lost millions in earnings. This case went all the way up to the Supreme Court in 1942, Korematsu versus the United States. The court supported the government's decision to do this as a necessary war effort. And that was kind of the end of arguing about this during the Second World War. The American people were behind it. Here is obviously an American who had strong feelings about the Japanese, wanted them to keep moving because this was a white man's neighborhood. These were the barracks, an example of the barracks in which they lived. These are not like Hitler's concentration camp barracks. No one is worked to death. Nobody starves to death. They are made to work. The work is hard. It is back-breaking work. They're not particularly well rewarded for it, but nobody's dying here. It is a black mark on the history of the United States. We painted with a very broad brush an ethnic group that had chosen to leave Japan, and that should have been information enough to know where their loyalties lie. The loyalties were so strong that many of the children of those who were interned in these camps volunteered to serve in the army to kind of prove their patriotism. And they formed what became known as the 442nd Infantry Battle Regiment. It was a combat regiment, the 442nd Infantry Battalion, and they fought with unusual distinction in the European theater of the war. And here they were Japanese officers and Japanese men. 21 of them were awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. And if you know anything about the Congressional Medal of Honor, it is something that they just don't give out for free. You have to show devotion to duty, a devotion to your soldiers and the cause above and beyond the normal call of duty. Most people who earn the Medal of Honor don't survive to get it clasped around their neck by the President of the United States. And here you have a reunion of the 442nd Infantry Battalion. These are all old American soldiers. Here's one you can see right on his neck. There is the Congressional Medal of Honor that this gentleman won fighting in Europe for the 442nd. And contrary to what so many Americans believed, there was not one single instance of sabotage during the entire war by a single Japanese American citizen who fought for the United States of America. It's a black mark upon the history of our country. It makes a degree of sense if you understand, get into the mindset of the people who made those decisions, but still, to paint an entire ethnic group with a vast broad brush like that kind of goes against everything that the United States is supposed to stand for.